Hey guys, it's Graham here. I'm looking at how to use some basic stuff in Photoshop today. Um, I'm using a piece of somebody's master plan, hopefully they don't mind, and it's a bit messy. It's got all sorts of lovely tracks and stuff on it. The lines look very messy, and yeah, it's quite a lot of work to start with, but I'll show you how to do it nice and quick to make this nice and workable. So let's go through it. So first off, you want to be very familiar with your shortcuts on the keyboard. There's lots of really useful shortcuts. Like for example, using the brush, like I have right now. I used to go up here, and you can select the size of your brush over here. That's great, but a lot quicker way is just to use these square brackets on your keyboard, and you can literally just make your brush bigger and smaller like that. Much easier to do it that way. Shortcuts like, for example, B on the keyboard takes you to brush, G takes you to the fill tool, things like that. Just speed up your life. Right, so what I'm going to do first with this is I am going to get all these black lines onto their own layer, because working with it right now as it is just way too difficult. So I'm going to go up to here and to select, and I'm going to use the color range tool. So I'm going to click on that, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom right down in here, and I'm going to make sure I'm right on the black, and I'm going to select one of this sort of black area here. That's great. And what it does is it selects all the black on the map or on the picture, and you can see it's slightly outlined over here on this little mini map that it shows. And this fuzziness bar selects how much black you're selecting and the range of black that you're selecting. So if I were to turn that right down, you can actually see that little map decreasing. So what it's doing is it's actually decreasing the amount, so it won't be taking all this grey and stuff along with it. But if I increase that right up, it's going to also start taking in grey and other stuff like that. So I'm going to put us on fairly highish around there, and let's see what we get. That's great. So now it's selecting all the black on my map, which is really cool because it's actually going to unselect all this other rubbish that's all over the place. Cool, right. So I'm going to copy that, going Control C. I'm going to paste it, Control V, and you'll see it automatically pastes it in as a new layer over here. So I'm just going to turn off this original picture, and then we can see, super, we've got our lines. That's nice. But the thing with the lines right now is they're kind of grey and they're still a bit blotchy, which is okay. But I would prefer to have those really nice and black and to stand out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all those colors again. So I'm on this new I'm going to call this Original Outlines. I like to label all my layers so I know exactly where I'm working at. Makes life a lot easier so you don't get stuck. I'm going to use the Select tool again, Color Range, and I know that it's still got the same setting here, so it's going to select all those black lines I've got already. And I'm going to now get my brush tool, pressing B, and I'm going to make that brush really big, make sure I've got it selected on a nice dark black, right? I'm also going to set up this brush, make sure it's on 100% hardness, and make sure that opacity is at 100% too. And I'm just going to go over the entire map, like that. I'm just going to zoom right out, make sure I've got everything. Fabulous, that's great. So now, if I just minimize that brush down so it's not taking up my whole screen, if I zoom in right on one of those lines, see how nice and black that is now. That's looking much better. And I could potentially even go over that again to make that a little bit darker. Alright, so the more times you go over it with the brush, the sort of more intense that color gets. Right, so I'm just going to deselect that. Much better. That's looking great. I'm actually going to delete this original layer because I don't need that anymore right now. I'm going to make a new layer here, and I'm going to pull that in below my lines. Whenever you're making outlines, it's usually best to work with colors below that line. I'll show you why in a second here. So I'm going to press G to get my fill tool. I'm going to select white, and I'm actually just going to give this a white background, just to make things clearer. There we go. Looking much nicer. There's still a bit of noise on here. That's unfortunate, but that's just been pulled through because it's so much clear. It's close to this black color. So unfortunately, that means at some point I'll have to go to this original lines layer, get my eraser tool, and actually just delete that bit of extra noise. It's not the end of the world having a little bit of noise in there. Righto, so next thing is we're going to work on colors. So say for example on this map I'm going to make all of this area, this here, that's all going to be lake. This is all going to be green fields, and then there's pathways and little bridges and stuff going over. So I know I've got at least two main colors. I've got blue and I've got green on this. So I'm going to do that with layers to start with, because those are really big colors covering a large area. So I'm going to make a new layer. I'm going to put that below my lines there, and I'm just going to give that a green color. So this is going to be all my fields. So I'm just going to hit G, and I'm just going to fill that whole thing up with green. Fantastic. I'm going to make another layer. I'm going to put this one below the green layer. I'm going to make this blue. So this is going to be for all my lakes. Let's give it that blue there. Okay, so I know that's there. If I turn off, press the little eyeball there, then I can see that green one's turned off. I can see what's below it. Cool. So I've got those two layers. So let's work on the lakes first. So to get these lakes coming out blue, what I need to do is I need to select all this green, and I need to cut it away, and then it'll basically be cutting holes in that green, and I can see the blue underneath it. So for that, I'm going to use the little magic wand tool over here. So if you hold down the left click on that, it'll bring up the menu with these two on it. Keep holding left and then let go on the magic wand. So the magic wand tool is going to think of everything that's sort of connected within these colors over here. The tolerance over here, the higher the tolerance, the more colors that magic wand tool is going to select. So say for example, if I put it on 100%, it'll probably select the entire picture. But if I put on a lower tolerance, say one color, just one on there, it'll select only that green. I'm going to leave it at 35 because that's a general setting that's usually set up to. So I'm going to select that area. It's done that very nicely and selected that all for me. I'm going to hold down shift and I'm going to select this area and that area too. And I'm just going to hit delete on my keyboard. Fabulous, there we go. So now I've got my nice blue lake shining through there. I'm going to hit Control D on the keyboard to deselect that. It's good to do that once you've been doing some selecting, because sometimes you can have selected a small area and then heck you can't use your brush. You're like, what's going on? So you actually got something selected and you don't realize. Alright, so that's that little bit done. Let's work on these pathways next. So I'm going to give that a nice tan color, but I can see the pathway over here sort of goes into fresh air. So I'm just going to draw a few little lines just to cut these pathways off. So I'm going to go back to my original outlines here, select black, get my brush. I'm just going to do this by hand here. I guess I want to say about 3 pixels, this one. And I'm just going to zoom in there. So to zoom in, just hold Alt on the keyboard and use your mouse wheel and you can zoom in. Just be careful when pressing Alt. Often what it does is it highlights the top menu here and it gives you all sorts of funny things going on. So just press Alt again to make sure you're not selected there. Say for example, the one I do is because I like using the hand tool to pan around, but then I sometimes press Alt, and if you press H it brings up the help menu and it brings up Internet Explorer, which is really not very helpful. So let's just do a line here. So to do a straight line, nice and easy, I could just draw a line, but then it's going to come out shitty like that because I can't draw straight lines. So I'm going to increase this brush just a little bit there. And to draw a straight line, you click on one point, you left click once, you can let go, and then you hold down shift and you click on your next point, and it's going to draw a nice straight line for you. Nice and easy. Right, so let's go here, draw another line there, and there's just one more place. I'm just going to draw a line here. Fantastic. Righto. So I'm going to use the magic wand tool one more time, and we're going to select this over here. Now I'm actually going to do this, I can do it on this top layer. So basically at the minute the magic wand tool is looking at all the layers over here. So it's going to sample all the layers, and you can see that there's a big difference between the black and the green over here. So I'm going to select that green, and that's actually selected that through really nicely. Now I'm going to make a new layer again. I'm going to put this one above the green, and I'm going to call this paths. I could also layer these other two. I'll get around to it potentially. So let's give this a nice brown color, and I'm just going to use my fill tool G, and I'm going to just give that a nice, there we go, lovely, pathways. Right, next thing is trees. This for example is a tree outline here with the cross being its trunk. Now you could draw trees by hand and do every single one of them, and that would take you quite a long time, but if you've got a deadline you've got to do these things quick. So I'll show you a nice easy way of doing that. So I'm just going to make a new little folder here. Yeah, whatever, that's fine. I'm just going to give this a new layer quickly because I want it to be an invisible background. And let's just make this page nice and square just to make it easier for me to work on. So I'm going to quickly draw a tree on this one. I'm going to give myself a nice thick line. Let's do it about 20, maybe even a bit more than that. And I'm going to select the black color here. So I'm going to give myself a tree. I'm going to do this by hand, just doing a sort of round shape here. So there's my tree, fantastic, and I'm going to give this a nice little trunk. Fantastic, I can do that across, but that's cool. That will do. So this shape here, I'm going to make my brush. So every time I use my brush, I'm going to plant down trees. So first you got to select that. So for this one, I'm not going to use my magic wand tool because it doesn't quite get close enough to the blackness to do this. So I'm going to use a quick selection tool, and I'm going to go around this whole lot and this bit in the middle, and it's actually going to do that really nice. You see how nice and close that is. Now you find sometimes with the magic wand tool also select the grey around here, so it'll be a little bit further away. So that's cool. I selected all that black, and now I'm going to go up to edit over here at the top left, click on that and go define brush preset. Cool. I'm going to call that tree 3 because I know I've got a few trees already. So I'm going to go OK, and I'm just going to go Control D because that's deselecting that. And if I go back to my original picture here, I'm just going to make myself a new layer and call this one Tree Outlines, because that's what I'm making. So I'm going to press B for my brush, and there's my big tree outline. It's huge at the minute, so I'm just going to decrease that brush size using my square brackets, and I'm just going to whack a few trees down. How easy is that? So instead of having to draw that shape over and over, you can just do that. And if you want to, say, rotate that tree because you want to change the angle and mix it up a bit, you can use this tool over here, and you can actually just change the orientation of the brush so that you can see it's not a different angle. How cool is that? And if you wanted to, say, squeeze it in, like slightly change that shape, like if you had a round tool or whatever, you can actually use this little arrow and you can pull that in and squish the shape. And unfortunately, because I've got a predefined shape, I can't actually do that with this one. So let's put a couple more in there. That's cool. Right, so now we're going to give it some color. If you can, always give the new layer the color layer, put it underneath your outlines, because then it makes your outlines stand out nicely. So let's call that tree color. Cool. So let's give that a nice dark green there. I'm just going to go to a regular round brush for this one, and I'm going to reduce that hardness so that the edges of the tree of the green don't look so hard, and sort of gives it sort of a more rounded shape too. You can change this opacity down. It can be quite good, especially if you've got pathways underneath the tree that you want to see, so I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to go and try and get this brush as close to that's not bad, close to the edges of that. So this is one way of doing it. I don't mind doing it like this. I don't mind having a bit of mess on the outside of the tree with the green, because let's face it, trees don't fit around. Well, I don't know. I think it's alright like that. So I'm going to give these a nice green color, and you can see that that stands out nicely. Now you can play around the shape, you can give that a few more shades of green if you want, but that is a really quick and easy way of getting some trees onto a master plan. I mean, if I really wanted to make that neat, what I could do is I could use my magic wand tool. Let's do that quickly. I can just go blam blam blam. Actually, that's probably going to look better on this one. And then I use my fill tool, making sure I'm still in the tree color there, and that's done that even nicer. There you go. So I've got a bunch of trees. Easy. Much easier than drawing it by hand. Cool. Right, the last thing I'm going to show you guys is how to apply a texture. So there's two ways of doing this. Say for example, this field over here, this football pitch, I want that to actually look like real grass, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to open up a picture that's got real grass. So let's go over here. I'm just going to quickly open up my my textures folder. I've got all sorts of stuff saved on. So there's my grass. I'm going to open that up. So that's what I'm going to get this to look like. So I'm just going to double click on this here. That just over there. Just double click on that. Just going to make it a workable layer. So if I wanted to edit that now, I can do that. Right, so there's two ways of doing this. The one way is I've got my picture here. I can use my clone tool. So that's this little guy over here. Click on that, and then you're going to hold down the Alt key, and you're going to left click. So it brings up a little target when you hold down the Alt key and you left click. So that's going to tell the computer, hey, I want to select from that central piece. So you can actually see with my cursor, you can see it sort of deforming there. That's actually got a little picture of where I've selected it. So you can actually see it there. There it goes. Right, so I'm just going to quickly select this football pitch. So let's just use our wand tool. I'm just going to select all these areas. I could have potentially drawn a box around that, or a few different ways. So this is probably the quickest way for now. So I'm going to select that area, and now I'm going to go back to the clone tool, which is this guy over here, and still remembering that I've got that grass there. So I'm just going to make this really big because it's only going to paint within the lines that I've got selected. I've still got on the tree color layer. That's fine for now. I'm just showing you guys. So I'm just going to hold that down, and voila, there we go. It's painting in. You can see the areas that I haven't actually selected there. Well, actually, this on the bottom there is because I've actually hit the edge of the page on this one. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hold Alt, select that again, so it centers it back in the center, and then I'm going to left click, blam, there you go. So, fantastic. I'm just going to deselect that, and I'm just going to go back to my brush tool. So that's one way, but you can see that grass is like massive, right? So it doesn't look very realistic. So the one way you can fix that is either you could save this, like you just shrink the scale of this page down, just go image, canvas, image size, and then you just scale it down, and that would fix that. There is another way, which is a lot easier though. Right, so this is the other way to do it. I'm just going to go Control Z. So you hold on Control and Alt and hit Z to go back more than one step. I'm going to keep that selected, and let's get this little guy selected in here. Right, so the other way to do a texture is to define a pattern basically. So I'm going to go here, got this grass, and I'm going to go here, I'm going to go Edit and Define Pattern. Right, and we're going to call it grass. That's great. So now it's telling the computer that, hey, this is going to be a pattern that I'm going to be using. So I'm going to go back here, and in this area that I've got selected here, I'm going to go down to this like weird moon shape. I don't know what this is really. Left click on that, and you go pattern. So now it's going to tell the computer to fill that area with that pattern. So I'm going to left click on that. Amazing. So there it goes. It fills in that area. But what's cool about this is I can actually just scale this down. Rather than having to change that original picture, I can scale that right down. So let's go to 12. Awesome. Look at that. Now I've got an awesome filled pitch. Lovely. Right, so you can do all sorts of things. You can do that with bricks and pathways and dirt and yeah, all sorts of things. But those should help get you through the basics. Hope that helps, and I hope you get drawing lovely little master plans like this one I did in my earlier today.